When my father's will was read, I was bracing myself for grief and legal formalities. Instead, I found something no lawyer could explain, a folded note, slipped inside the envelope with my inheritance papers. In his unmistakable handwriting. It read, "I'm alive. Don't let your brother take the house." Now, I'm torn between mourning and suspicion. If my father is truly alive, where has he been? And why warn me about my own brother, Daniel, who's been nothing but kind, or so I thought. As hidden truths start to surface, I realize this isn't just about property. It's about betrayal, survival, and a dangerous family game I was never supposed to win. The will reading was supposed to be the final step. A formality. A way to wrap up the mess my father left behind after his sudden heart attack 2 months ago. I remember walking into the law firm's conference room that morning with the numbness of someone who's already cried enough. The air smelled faintly of coffee and old carpet, and Daniel was already there, leaning back in his chair, smiling politely, almost smug. He always liked to look composed, as if nothing could rattle him. The lawyer, Mr. Gaines, cleared his throat and began. Most of it was standard accounts, assets, the division of personal effects. My name came up as the recipient of the lake house, the one where we spent summers as kids. Daniel was left with the downtown apartment and the remaining investments. On paper, it seemed fair. Then Mr. Gaines paused. He reached for an extra envelope, smaller than the others, and slid it toward me. "This was found with your father's personal papers," he said. His voice carried that careful tone people use when they know they're handing you something that might hurt. Opened it slowly. Inside, a single folded sheet of yellowed notepad paper. My father's handwriting, unmistakable, the same bold loops and sharp lines I'd seen on countless grocery lists and birthday cards. It read, "I'm alive. Don't let your brother take the house." For a moment, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. My father's funeral had been closed casket. His body, if it was really him, had been rushed through the cremation process. I had told myself it was his wish, but now everything felt wrong. Daniel leaned forward. "What's that?" His tone was light, but there was something in his eyes, something sharp. I slipped the note back into the envelope before he could see it. "Just some old papers," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur. I barely heard the lawyer's closing remarks. My mind was a storm. If my father was alive, why disappear? Why not come to me directly? And why the warning about Daniel? When we left the firm, Daniel put a hand on my shoulder. "We should talk about the house soon," he said. His grip was firm, almost too firm. "It's too much for you to manage alone." I forced a smile. "We'll see." That night, I locked my bedroom door and took out the note again. I studied the handwriting, the smudge of ink at the bottom where his pen must have hesitated. My father's words felt urgent, almost desperate. I decided to search the lake house the next day. If there were answers, that was the place they'd be. When I arrived, the air was colder than I remembered, the kind of chill that creeps under your skin. The place smelled like damp wood and dust. I hadn't been there since before the funeral. I started in his study, pulling open drawers, checking under the loose floorboard where he used to hide cash. That's when I heard it. A floor creak. Not from me. Slow, deliberate steps coming from upstairs. I froze, my pulse pounding in my ears. Someone else was in the house, and then, from the landing above, a voice I hadn't heard in months, low, familiar, and impossible. "Close the door before he finds you." My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might give me away. That voice, it couldn't be. I told myself I was imagining it, that grief had finally cracked something in my head. But then I heard it again, softer this time. "Close the door. Now." I obeyed without thinking, pushing the front door shut until it clicked. My eyes swept the room, searching for a weapon, anything. My father's old fireplace poker leaned against the hearth, and I gripped it so tight my knuckles turned White, the creaking upstairs stopped. Then, slow footsteps descended the staircase. My breath caught as a figure emerged from the shadows, taller than I remembered, thinner, hair streaked with gray. But the eyes, those were the same eyes that had watched me learn to ride a bike. That had glared at Daniel when he broke my arm in a wrestling accident at age 9, it was him. My father, I felt dizzy. You're supposed to be dead. The words came out as a whisper, almost an accusation. I know, he said, glancing toward the windows as if expecting someone to be watching. And if Daniel finds out I'm not? You will be too. I wanted to scream, to demand explanations, but the weight of his warning pressed the questions down. Instead, I asked, why? Why fake your death? Why all of this? He rubbed a hand over his face, the way he always did when he was cornered. It wasn't just Daniel. There are people he's involved with, dangerous people. The kind that don't forgive debts. The lake house, there's more to it than you know. I remembered the note in my pocket and pulled it out. You wrote this. You told me not to let him take the house. Why? What's here? His gaze darkened. Proof. Proof that could ruin him. And them. It has to stay hidden, or neither of us will make it out of this. Before I could process that, the sound of gravel crunching outside made him stiffen. He moved quickly to the back door. Go to the attic. Stay there until I tell you it's safe. What about you? I asked. He didn't answer. He just slipped out the back, disappearing into the trees like he'd done this 100 times before, ran up the stairs, every creak of the wood sounding like a gunshot in my ears. The attic was musty, full of dust motes swirling in the thin light from a single cracked window. I crouched behind a stack of old boxes and listened. The front door opened. Heavy steps echoed through the house. Then a voice, Daniel's voice, called out, "Hello? I know you're here." My blood ran cold. He moved slowly, methodically, like he already knew exactly where to look. His voice was calm, almost friendly, but I could hear the steel underneath. You shouldn't have come here without me. This place isn't safe for you. I pressed myself tighter against the boxes, willing myself to be invisible. Then, without warning, the attic floor groaned beneath me. The steps stopped. I found you, Daniel said. The attic hatch lifted an inch, then two. Daniel's hand appeared first, fingers pale against the dark wood, a wedding band he never took off glinting in the thin light. I slid silently along the rafters, trying to calculate the distance to the window if I had to jump. When his head finally rose through the opening, his smile was too smooth, too slow, like he'd practiced it in the mirror. There you are, he said, voice low. You scared me. He didn't look scared. He looked pleased. I kept the fireplace poker tucked behind a trunk, the metal cool against my palm. How did you know I was here? Your car in the driveway. The door unlocked. He hoisted himself into the attic with a grace that made the old beams shudder, then dusted off his sleeves as if we were about to start a home renovation. You shouldn't come out here alone. The house is fragile. Funny word. He pretended not to hear me. His eyes wandered over the mess of boxes and moth-bitten quilts as if he already knew what he was looking for. Dad would have hated seeing the place like this. He let the word hang there, Dad, like bait. You doing okay? With everything? I swallowed. You're awfully interested in the house. It's part of the estate. We have to decide how to handle it. He glanced at me, expression unreadable. You got anything unusual at the reading? Heat flashed up my neck. I shook my head. Just the usual. Daniel took a step toward me. The attic groaned. Because I've been thinking. The cremation was fast. Too fast. I'm not saying something was wrong, I'm just worried you're clinging to fantasies. Fantasies? About him being alive. He said it delicately, kindly, like he was offering me a soft place to land. Grief does strange things. He was probing. I kept my face blank and let my eyes drift to the rafters to avoid his gaze. That's when I saw it, a thin scratch mark cut into the joist above the old trunk, shaped like a crooked V. My father used to carve that mark inside his workshop drawers when something was worth keeping. A private breadcrumb, I moved casually, as if clearing dust from the trunk. Daniel's attention sharpened. What are you doing? Trying not to sneeze. I felt under the joist until my fingers found a seam. A small square, no wider than my palm, loosened with a gentle push. A wooden tile slid free and clinked softly on the trunk lid. Inside the hollow, a plastic pouch sat taped to the beam, gray with dust. I pulled it out before I could stop myself. Daniel's jaw tightened. What is that? Love letters, I said, too quickly. My voice wobbled. He reached for it. I stepped back. My foot landed on an uneven board and the attic dipped with a warning crack. We both froze. After a beat, he smiled with that polite, almost familial concern. Let me help. You'll fall. I've got it. I tore open the pouch. Inside lay a cheap flip phone, an old motel key tag labeled ELOC 307, and a folded photograph. I unfolded it and found my father in a grainy shot, standing beside a man I didn't recognize, thick neck, snake tattoo curling up behind his ear. On the back, in my father's block letters, if anything happens to me, the truth is in the room behind the blue door. Do not trust Daniel. My throat went dry. I kept my face still, but something must have flickered. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Let me see. Not a request. He extended his hand. I slipped the phone and key tag into my pocket and held up the photo. He snatched it faster than I expected, barely glancing at the front before flipping it over. For a heartbeat his expression went blank. Then came the actor's smile. Blue door. Sounds like one of Dad's scavenger hunts. He stopped doing those when we were 12. Maybe he missed playing games. He folded the photo, slid it into his blazer. I didn't argue. I needed him to think that was all there was. My hand found the flip phone's power button inside my pocket and pressed. The screen stuttered to life, showing a battery icon with a sliver of red and a single saved message, drafts, 1. My pulse tripped. I angled my body, shielding the glow. I came to propose something, Daniel said, voice smooth. We sell the house. Quick cash. You get a fair split, we both walk away before his debts become our problem. His debts? I asked. Or yours? Something knife-sharp flashed behind his eyes. You think you're the only one he confided in? He told me things near the end. Owed the wrong people. Gambled. Sloppy. I thought of the note, I'm alive. Don't let your brother take the house. The attic seemed to press and, beams leaning closer, air thinning by the second. I opened the flip phone and navigated to the draft. It was a number, half-typed, and a few words, he's in the text cut off. Below it, a timestamp from 2 nights after the funeral. He'd started to send something and stopped. Daniel stepped closer, and the attic released a puff of dust between us like a held breath. I know you think I'm the villain here, he said softly. That hurts, you know? After I picked up the pieces when you ran away to college, after I took Dad to his doctor appointments while you called once a week. I called every day. Those last 2 months. He shrugged. Not the same as being there. It was the oldest trick he knew, tilting the truth just enough to make me doubt the ground under my feet. I steadied myself with the memory of the handwriting, the weight of the key in my pocket. Where's the blue door, Daniel? He laughed. If you don't know, you're not meant to open it. From downstairs, a faint crunch of gravel whispered through the open window. Daniel heard it too. His head tilted. He moved fast, crossed to the attic window, and peeked through a crack in the warped frame. "We need to go," he murmured, all pretense stripped. "Now." "Who is it?" I asked. His silence answered. Whatever names I had for his wrong people, they were now in my driveway. I tightened my grip on the poker. "You brought them?" He spun. "They followed you." His eyes cut to my pocket, where the phone's faint light glowed against the fabric. "And whatever you just found." He lunged. I swung. The poker hit wood and sent a shudder through the rafters. The attic ladder below rattled against its frame. Daniel grabbed my wrist with bruising fingers, the same grip he'd used when we were kids, and he wanted the last word. We grappled in an awful silence of dust and old wood, a dance we'd practiced our whole lives in smaller, pettier ways. A shout rose from downstairs, male and unfamiliar. "Daniel. You up there?" His grip loosened. He looked at me with a nakedness I hadn't seen in years. "Sphere. Give me the phone," he hissed. "Please. Tell me where the blue door is." His jaw set. "If I tell you, you'll go without me. That's the idea." He exhaled, a small, helpless sound. "Basement," he said finally. "Behind the oil tank. There's a panel. He used to hide bourbon there when Mom was alive. Now it's something else." Another shout, closer. Footsteps. The ladder jolted as someone tested the first rung. Daniel grabbed my shoulders. "If they see you, it's over. I'll get rid of them. You go. Take the back stairs." I stared at him, trying to see the trick, the angle. He held my gaze without blinking. For once, the performance looked less like a mask and more like a plea. I slipped past him, heart kicking against my ribs, and reached the hatch. The men were halfway up. I pulled my hand back just as a knuckle appeared, then an eye. I spun and found the narrow back stairwell my father had built decades ago for hauling trunks. The steps were steep, the banister loose. I descended in a crouch, one hand on the wall, every board an accusation. I in the kitchen, moonlight cut the room into stark pieces, the sink, the chipped enamel table, the door to the basement yawning like a throat. I moved toward it, then stopped. A shadow passed across the back window, a tall shape, then another. My pulse broke into a sprint, the flip phone buzzed weakly in my pocket. I opened it. A new text lit the tiny screen from an unknown number. "Do not go to the basement. Blue door is a trap. Back door." Now, I froze, the words burning into me. Then a second text arrived before I could breathe. "I'm outside. And he's not alone." I didn't move at first. The phone's dim screen glowed in my palm like a match in the dark, the words blurring as my heartbeat pounded in my ears. "I'm outside. And he's not alone. My father's alive." I'd seen him, but if this message was from him, who was the other person? And if it wasn't from him, who knew exactly what was happening inside this house right now? The basement door loomed open, breathing out a draft that smelled of damp concrete and oil. Behind it, somewhere, was the blue door Daniel had sworn held answers. And yet here was this warning, as clear as it was cryptic: blue door is a trap. My mind scrambled through possibilities. Daniel could have sent this himself from another number to spook me. Or it could be one of his so-called dangerous people luring me out. But then I thought about my father's voice upstairs, the urgency in it. He'd told me to stay hidden, then vanished into the woods. If he wanted me dead, there were easier ways. The floorboards above groaned. Someone, maybe Daniel, maybe not, was moving toward the attic hatch. I slipped to the back door, every sense screaming to get out before they realized I was gone. My hand was on the knob when the kitchen window rattled. A face appeared in the glass. It wasn't my father. The man outside had a shaved head and a faded tattoo winding up the side of his neck, the same tattoo I'd seen in the photograph from the attic. His expression was flat, cold, but his eyes scanned the room like a hunter. He tapped the glass once with a gloved finger, then pointed toward the trees. A signal? A threat? I didn't wait to find out. The back door squealed when I opened it. And the night air wrapped around me like ice. I ducked low and moved along the side of the house, gravel crunching under my shoes no matter how carefully I stepped. From the front yard came muffled voices, Daniel's, sharp and controlled, and at least two others I didn't recognize. I caught fragments. She doesn't know. Keep it clean, not here. I slipped into the woods, the branches closing. Overhead. My eyes adjusted slowly, catching the pale line of a narrow path I half remembered from childhood summers. My father used to take me down here to fish at dawn, away from Daniel's tantrums. I followed it now, the sounds of the house fading behind me. 10 minutes in, the beam of a flashlight cut through the trees ahead. I froze, heart stuttering. Then came a whisper, low but urgent, "This way." It was my father. He stepped into the faint light, older and more worn than I remembered, but undeniably him. Beside him stood a woman I didn't know, dark hair pulled tight, eyes darting in every direction like she'd been on the run for weeks. She carried a canvas duffel slung across one shoulder. "We don't have much time," my father said. His voice had the same weight it did when he told me to get out of the road at age 6. "They'll realize you're gone any second." I stepped forward, questions fighting to be first. "What's in the basement? Why tell me it's a trap?" The woman spoke before he could. "Because that's where they clean up problems. You go down there, you don't come back." I swallowed hard. "Daniel? Daniel's in deeper than you think," my father said. "The house is leverage. What's inside it is bigger than him, bigger than all of us. And now they know you've been digging." The woman shifted the duffel. "We have to move. The cabin's still safe, for now." "The cabin?" I asked. My father gave me a look that made my stomach turn. "The one we used after your mother died. The place I told you never to talk about." The wind hissed through the trees, and for a moment the night felt like it was listening. Then, from somewhere back toward the house, a shout shattered the air, "She's gone." Flashlights began slicing through the dark. My father grabbed my arm, his grip as strong as it had been in the attic. "Run." We bolted into the woods, the woman leading, branches clawing at my arms. Behind us, the voices grew louder, closer, joined by the metallic click of what could only be a gun being readied. My lungs burned, my legs threatening to give out, but the path kept winding deeper into the forest until we reached a clearing lit by the silver spill of moonlight. In the center stood a small cabin, paint peeling, windows black as eyes. My father yanked open the door, ushering me inside. The smell hit me first, stale air, mildew, and something faintly metallic. The woman locked the door behind us, then dropped the duffel onto the floor with a heavy thud. Inside were stacks of manila folders, cash bundled with rubber bands, and a single blue envelope. My father picked it up and handed it to me. "This is what they're after. Read it, and you'll understand everything." I slid a finger under the flap, but before I could open it, the front window exploded inward, showering the floor with glass. A voice from outside barked, "Nobody moves." And then I realized, it wasn't Daniel's voice. The command hung in the air, hard as the night, "Nobody moves." The cabin went still except for our breathing and the tiny tick of glass settling on the floorboards. My father lifted his hands slowly. The woman didn't flinch. Her eyes calculated angles, distances, the weight of the duffel between us like a line drawn in chalk. A beam of light slid across my face, and the man with the snake tattoo stepped through the shattered window frame, boots crunching on glass. Two others flanked the doorway. None of them were Daniel. That should have calmed me. "It didn't." "Envelope," Snake said, eyes on the blue. "Now." My father spoke with a softness that used to end my tantrums. "You don't want to do this in here." Funny, the woman said, neither do we. Her hand dipped to the duffel and came up with a compact pistol that looked too small to matter until you saw how still she held it. She aimed it at Snake with the steadiness of someone who had practiced for years. Put the guns down and walk away. Snake smiled. Without humor. Hello, Mara. He tilted his chin at my father. Your accountant brought his daughter. My father's jaw shifted. Accountant. The word picked at me like a thorn. The woman, Mara, never took her eyes off Snake. Don't listen to him, she murmured to me. He wants you scared enough to hand that over. Snake's gaze slid to me. Your brothers made a lot of promises to very impatient people. That envelope settles some of them. Behind Snake, the second man's radio crackled. A voice hissed, Unit 2, we have heat signatures moving north, 1 adult male, 1 female, closing. I glanced at my father. He flicked the smallest look toward the trees. Someone else was coming, Daniel, I thought. Please give it, Snake said, stepping closer. I pulled the blue envelope to my chest. Tell me what's in it. Insurance, my father answered, too quickly. Then, to Snake, she doesn't. No. You keep her out of it. Mara's eyebrow twitched. You always keep her out of it, don't you? She nodded at the envelope. It's ledgers, recordings, account trees. Enough to bury a judge, 2 developers, and anyone who helped move cash through sham trusts. Enough to bury him. She tilted her gun at my father. The floor dropped a few inches beneath me, metaphor, then real, as someone hit the back door with a shoulder and the latch popped. Daniel stumbled in, wild-eyed, a smear of blood on his shirt like a handprint. He took in the tableau in a single cut of his gaze, guns up, glass on the floor, me holding that terrible blue. Let her go, Daniel said. No performative smile now. His voice was frayed wire. Snake swung his gun partway toward him. You're late. Daniel edged between me and the guns, palm extended. Give me the envelope. He looked at me, and for once there was nothing slippery in it, only the stripped-down truth of someone who'd run out of lies. I sent the text. Basement's a kill room. He built it for collections. I felt the words like cold water. I turned to my father. Tell me that's not true. He didn't answer. He looked at the envelope the way thirsty men look at wells. You were never in debt, Daniel said to him. You were the debt. You ran the books. The house is the shell. You staged your exit because a developer flipped. You needed us fighting over the deed so nobody looked at the crawlspace. Snake laughed, a single bark. Family therapy is 30 minutes down the road. Mara's gun never wavered. He's right about one thing, she said to me. Your father's not the victim here. He dragged me in too. A bitterness flashed across her face. I thought I was laundering political donations. Then the bodies started. He kept the ledgers so he could blackmail his way out when it went bad. Guns. Radios. The night pressing its ear to our thin walls. My father took one step, palms open, voice low. Sweetheart, listen to me. If you hand that envelope to them, you die. If you hand it to Daniel, you die slower. Give it to me, and I get you out clean. Clean? I repeated. The word tasted rotten. You wrote me a note and called my brother a thief. I told you not to let him take the house, he said. Because if he did, they'd kill him for failing, then they'd come for you. I kept you out of it. By faking your death, I said. By making me mourn you. By keeping you alive, he said, and for a moment I heard the father who taught me to drive, who held my bike steady until I learned balance. That memory buckled under the weight of the room. Outside, engines growled. A different voice cut through the radio static, clear, commanding, not Snake's crew. This is state police. Drop your weapons and come out slowly. Everything snapped at once. Snake fired. The window frame spit splinters. Mara shoved me sideways and returned fire. Her first shot took the second man's shoulder, spinning him into the table. Daniel grabbed my arm and hauled me behind the stove as glass and plaster rained down. Listen, he said into my ear, voice ragged. There's a microcard in that envelope. It's the only piece that matters. Keep it, burn the rest. He glanced over the stove. Trust me just this once. Trust him. Trust the accountant. Trust no one. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the envelope. I tore it open. Papers spilled, spider web charts of LLCs, notarized statements, the grainy stills of men shaking hands in parking garages. And there, taped to the flap, a sliver of black. I palmed it as I fed the first sheet into the gas flame. The paper curled and darkened and then went to ash, and for one violent second I felt light, like I'd finally set something down. Stop, my father roared. The sound tore out of him in a way I'd never heard. He surged from cover, shoulder checking Daniel into the counter, and came for me with empty hands that somehow felt more dangerous than any gun. You don't understand what you've done. I understand enough, I said, backing toward the door with the card clenched in my fist. You lied to me. You lied to both of us. Sirens outside. Boots pounding porch wood. Mara, bleeding now, shouted, hands, and for once she meant ours. Snake cursed and disappeared toward the back, a shadow peeling off into the trees. My father reached for me, then stopped as a red dot bloomed on his chest. Through the broken window a trooper sighted down his rifle. Don't move. My father's eyes found mine. All the sharp edges dropped away, and there was the man who used to hum while flipping pancakes, who smelled like sawdust and laundry soap. Please, he whispered. I can fix this. Behind me, Daniel said, give me the card. He held out his hand, palm up, not reaching, not grabbing. I'll put it in the right hands. Mara, pale and shaking, nodded once. He's already been talking to them. You think he could afford that apartment? It was wired. He's been feeding state for months. The room shrank to 3 faces and one choice. Father. Brother. Stranger turned confessor. I looked at the ash drifting up the chimney like black snow and felt a line in me harden. I stepped forward, opening my fist, and then a gunshot cracked. The world in half. The body that hit the floor wasn't the one I expected.